Ollie, it is definitely D-Day where Theresa May is concerned, having been rejected by 149 votes by the Commons. Are we expecting the vote this evening to really side with leaving the EU without actually having a deal in place?
It's D-Day every day for Theresa May at the moment. Yes, this is a very significant moment. MPs will decide whether they want to proceed and leave the European Union on the 29th of March as planned, but with no deal in place, having rejected Theresa May's deal for the second time. We think that they will go ahead and reject the idea of a no-deal Brexit on the 29th of March. Now, it's not quite as simple as that, because if they do so, MPs will then get another vote here in London on Thursday on whether to extend the Article 50 process, the Brexit process, whether to extend Brexit beyond March the 29th. And that's not as simple as it sounds, because the UK would have to request that from the European Union, and it's not a given that the EU would say, yes, you can have a delay to the whole Brexit process. So even if MPs vote that they don't want to see a no-deal Brexit, it doesn't necessarily mean that no deal is off the table completely, because even if there's an extension to Brexit, that essentially kicks the can down the road a few weeks or months or whatever it may be. The no-deal cliff edge will remain in some form.
Well, the Labour's Jeremy Corbyn was suggesting, actually, was it a custom union, saying that it is the only show in town. How valid are those points that is made by Labour?
Well, certainly there are members of Theresa May's own Conservative Party who say that actually she should be talking to the opposition Labour Party and Jeremy Corbyn about arrangements like a customs union. The problem is that it's not clear at all that there is a majority in the House of Commons for the types of arrangements that Jeremy Corbyn is suggesting. It's also not clear at all that the European Union would agree to exactly the types of arrangements that Jeremy Corbyn is suggesting. So even if the Conservatives and Theresa May were to go along those lines, were to go down that road with the opposition Labour Party, even that would need a delay in the Brexit process, because March the 29th, you don't need to be a mathematician to work out, is really not very far away now.
And then on the other side of it, I mean, you were mentioning quite right that this is possibly whether or not the vote goes in favour of leaving the EU without a deal in place, or with even having a deal in place. If the EU should decide to reject, having, the deal in itself that's put forward on the table, or no deal for that matter, what does that mean then, for the UK, for the British people?
Well, the default legal scenario at the moment is that legislation is in place for Britain to leave the European Union on the 29th of March. So for that date to change, something has to come in its place. Some plan has to be put forward that needs to be agreed by the EU and agreed by Parliament here in London to either extend or delay or revoke or whatever it may be. So as things stand, Britain is leaving on the 29th of March, and as things stand, Britain is leaving on the 29th of March with no deal in place. Now, exactly how that plays out, it depends really who you listen to. The Chancellor, Philip Hammond, the Finance Minister, has been talking today about the significant hit that he believes the UK economy would take in the short term under a no-deal scenario. Economists have warned for many months now about the difficulties that the UK would face in a no-deal situation. We've heard warnings of drug shortages, food shortages on supermarket shelves, traffic jams building up in the south of England because of problems getting lorries across the Channel and through the Channel Tunnel and onto the ferries and into the continental European Union. Now, Brexiteer MPs who want out of the European Union, some of them actually say they want out on a no-deal basis, and they say those warnings are so-called Project Fear. They say none of those things will be as bad as are predicted, and that no deal will make it easier for the UK to go out into the world and sign new and improved trade deals with countries like South Africa and others. So it's one of those situations where it depends who you ask as to what the implications of all these various scenarios will actually be.
Well, we're going to leave our conversation there, but thanks all for joining us this evening, shedding some light in terms of that voting that is set to take place at the Commons to really decide on whether or not to leave the EU with a deal in place or with no deal in place. 29th of March is indeed that deadline.